All right, we are live. It is another Wednesday. It is super rainy here in Nashville, Tennessee, and I am super excited to talk a little bit more about virtual assistants. Some of you guys might be getting tired of me talking about that, but that is my passion. That is what I do, and I'm super excited to share with you guys a little bit of information today about the best practices when it comes to hiring a virtual assistant. So for you guys that are joining on here, I see we already got over 100 people watching from different platforms. So I'm super excited to have you guys all tuning in from all across the different platforms. If someone can hear me, just if you don't mind making and dropping a comment that you can hear me, just to make sure that I'm not talking to myself here. I know some of my team members said that they can just hear me. So we're going to give it about another 30 to 45 seconds. And then we are going to dive right in. So if you guys are just seeing this live and you have no clue what we're going to be covering today, basically we're going to cover from A to Z how to hire a virtual assistant in today's market. If you wanted to go off and do it yourself after today's call, I'm pretty confident that you would have the skills to be able to do so. And then of course, you know, at Sphere Rocket, we do a lot of that too and help people with that. That's another option for you guys as well. But a lot of you guys don't even know what a VA is. You don't even know what you could use a VA for. You might have some limiting beliefs around, hey, what is a virtual assistant? Can I even use a virtual assistant and different things like that? Appreciate it, Austin. I just got your call when I was on my previous call. I'll give you a call back this afternoon, man. But no, a lot of you guys are tuning in. We are just going to kind of dive right in. So we're going to be about 30 minutes today of kind of just like I said, we're going to talk everything how to get a virtual assistant. So let me share my screen with you guys real fast, and then we are just going to dive right in. So with that being said, guys, I'm super excited to have you. Let me know if you guys have any problems hearing me. Please ask as many questions throughout today as humanly possible. I would really appreciate that. And I'm just going to get on my phone real fast to make sure everything is coming in as clear as can be. And then we're going to get started. So if you guys have never heard me speak before, we really cover one topic over and over and over again, and it is how to hire virtual assistants. Many of you guys might not know my background, so I'm going to dive into that real fast. I was licensed at 19 years old. I ran a team with my dad of 15 plus agents, an expansion team. By the time I left, we were up to about $35+ million a year in sales volume. I ended up spending about a year on the road traveling and taught over 10,000 real estate agents live at over 200 brokerages. Started a coaching company that same year that we ended up getting to about 1,000+ agents that were paying us monthly for our coaching. And then during COVID, we ended up starting Sphere Rocket Virtual Assistants out of request from our consumer to have a VA solution for them. And ultimately that exploded faster than we could have ever imagined. And that's kind of where I spend most of my time today, is within Sphere Rocket Virtual Assistants, which is providing virtual assistants, whether it's in real estate or other niches, to anybody that needs them. So with that being said, most people know that I've started my first 7-figure company at the age of 24, and that's using virtual assistants. None of that would have been possible without my virtual assistants. I can't take any claim to the credit for really even 10% of that if it wasn't for my virtual assistants. So what is my life mission? We literally are going to cover this slide on every presentation I do for the rest of the year. If you guys aren't aware, we have 80 more of these scheduled out for the rest of 2021. So if you guys are watching this on a platform, just know that we bring one of these live each and every week. So what is my life's mission? Is to, number one, is to show you the power of leverage. If you don't have leverage, you're never going to build a business that you can step away from. And leverage doesn't necessarily mean only virtual assistants. It could be in-person assistants. It could be adding more buyer's agents. It could be adding more listing agents. It could be paying for services like meal prep or, you know, a cleaner or different things like that. Because ultimately, if we're building a business that is worth having, you are going to have leverage of some sort. Number two is to show you how to do it through a VA at $3 to $6 per hour. So while number one, I may show you different ways than a VA, obviously way number two is we are passionate about using virtual assistants because we have the opportunity to change virtual assistants' lives and grow an organization that's worth owning. Number three is to help scale to your heart's desire, not my heart's desire. You know, I would love for every agent in the world to sell 1,000 homes, but most likely your goals are not to sell 1,000 homes a year. Maybe your goal is to sell 12 more to afford a few more family vacations and build more financial security. Maybe your goal is just to get out of production so you can spend more time with your family. So my goal is to help you scale to your heart's desire using virtual assistants, whether that's 1 or 100. And number four, I have a passion that we want to place 2,000 VAs per year. So now that you guys kind of know my passions, who I am, let's rock and roll. And I'm going to show you guys how to hire a VA for $3 to $6 per hour. So first off is we got to cover what is a VA. First off, a VA is just any assistant that is virtual or any virtual assistant. And that could be that's a VA that's based in the US, that could be a VA based in Canada, that could be a VA that's based just down the street from you, right? A lot of people during COVID ended up getting VAs even though they didn't know they had VAs. You might have had an in-person assistant, they ended up staying home. That's a virtual assistant at that point. It's them operating in the virtual world. When we talk about VAs though, usually we're talking about assistants that aren't in our own city, aren't in our own state. And so that kind of leads us to a VA can obviously be US based or it can be international based. So like we talked about, COVID cost everyone to be a VA. Now the sole difference, and I'm going to tell you guys this is really the sole difference, and it comes down to two reasons of why you would use a US based VA versus an international VA. Two reasons. Reason number one is cost for a VA in the US base is obviously more expensive versus a cost for a VA foreign based is usually about 80 to 90% more cost efficient when you're talking virtual assistant leverage. So obviously a lot of people that are using VAs are in three different stages. They're either in stage number one where they can't afford a full-time assistant, but they need the leverage and they know that's the only way that they're going to break that ceiling. It's way number two. It's someone that already has maybe an in-person assistant and they need to give that assistant more leverage, or they have another area in their business where, for example, maybe their admin takes care of their TC work, but isn't so great at social media or isn't good at video editing. And so a lot of times teams will fill in VAs where they need help and have missing pieces to increase profitability. And then way number three is obviously people that already have in-person assistants, that already have VAs, and are just looking to scale bigger and faster with a ton of virtual assistants. And so that's really where the foreign VAs come in, is because we're able to have great cost savings. And also, if I'm being completely honest with you, this isn't a knock on America, but foreign workers just work so much harder when it comes to this type of work than anything you guys can ever imagine when we're talking about introductory type rates. So with that being said, we're going to kind of dive in right now to what does a VA do. So really, guys, the answer is really simple. I think a lot of times people really overcomplicate this question of what does a VA do, because people are like, well, do they cold call, or do they do TC work, or do they do my admin task, or can they do social media? And the answer is a VA can do anything. And I know and believe this, and I know it to be true because it's in my organization. A virtual assistant can do anything that does not require a physical presence. Now, let me be very clear about this. It might be that not one VA can do everything, but one virtual assistant in the right position can do what you need them to do. And so let me rephrase that. A VA can do anything that does not require a physical presence. But that does not mean that you go and find one person that are going to be able to do everything, right? If you ask for me to design a flyer, or you ask me to design this presentation, my presentation would have been on a white background. It would have been a whole bunch of misspelled words. It would have had no logos, no nothing. That's just not who I am. But I have a virtual assistant that does all of our presentations, etc., for the most part. And so we can really narrow in what they're good at. So, but a lot of times people ask, I say in the real estate realm, it's all the admin tasks, right? Anything you're doing that is an admin task you shouldn't be doing, a VA can do. social media creation, schedule management, obviously transaction type work, lead generation. That can be, whether it's Facebook ads, cold calling, the whole 9 yards. They can do client care. That's almost like a customer care department where you can go in, they're making quarterly calls for you, etc. CRM management. This could be incoming leads. It could be leads that you already have. It could just be loving your database. And you guys kind of get the point here. If you're watching this and you don't know what admin tasks are in real estate, I'm just going to tell you right now, you're not ready for a virtual assistant if you don't even know what an admin task is. Most of you, though, have a pretty darn good idea of what admin tasks are in real estate. So if you guys want a copy of the top 50 tasks that our virtual assistants do for us in the real estate space, just comment the word task and we will make sure to get you guys over a copy of our PDF book. It's completely free. It's an ebook. You just open the link. No, you don't need to give us your email or your phone number or anything. Literally just comment the word task and I'll get you guys a copy of our ebook that is the top 50 things that my virtual assistants do for me on my real estate team. If you guys don't know this, I am still in production. I do still sell and buy homes with home buyers, home sellers, etc. So these are real practical things that our VAs are doing inside of our real estate business. If you guys comment task, either William or Gabe will reach out to you guys in Messenger. So just make sure to check your Messenger. You guys will get a copy of that by the end of today's call. So now if I'm going to be really, really honest with you, most people don't have a VA because they just haven't been taught the right mindset yet, right? When we think about getting an assistant, we naturally just think about getting a US-based employee. We think a $3,500 salary, most likely it's about $36,000 a year, give or take a few dollars, maybe $45,000, depending on where you're at. You have fringe benefits. These are, vacations, taxes, workman's comp, all these different things. You have overhead rates. So usually the average entry-level employee for a United States-based real estate agent, if it's an in-person assistant, usually ends up coming to about $66,000 a year. And so let's say that you're making as an agent either $100,000, $75,000, $150,000, $200,000. When you look at a $66,000 a year rate, of what basically the effective pay is for a year, you start to see 20, 30, 40, 50% of your margins being paid to someone. And that's just a tough pill to swallow, especially when you're trying to keep percentages, profit first, etc. And so that's where when agents really look at what other mega agents are doing, that's when we start to learn when we get a financial cost for foreign-based VA, the US-based cost for us to pay that is just the salary. Because the virtual assistants stay in foreign independent contractor status for the most part, and that's what we suggest. You can make them an employee. There's a way to do that. But the best way is to keep them as independent foreign contractor because there's so many tax benefits. You don't owe them fringe benefits. You don't have the overhead rate. You're just paying them a straight salary. And after placing 1,000+ VAs in the last 12 months with real estate agents across the nation, the average real estate agent only pays their VA $640 a month for full-time work. Yeah, you heard me, $640 a month for full-time work. No, it's not a scam. No, you're not ripping people off. You call anybody in the Philippines and ask them, is $640 a month a very good income? 99% of people are going to say absolutely. Guys, we get over 90,000 applications to work for us each and every month in the Philippines. For opportunities between $400 to $800 a month on average. So when you talk about a virtual assistant, you can end up getting a full-time VA on your team for about $7,680 a year. People always ask me, Justin, convince me to get a VA, or am I ready for a VA? And I always tell people, if you can't afford $7,700 a year for a full-time assistant that's doing your social media, doing your admin tab, they're at your call all day long, then the answer is clear. You're not ready for a VA. If I have to convince you and pry at you that you're ready just to spend $7,700 a year, you're not ready to grow a true real estate business, right? Because if we're being honest with ourselves, a true business, when we look around our town, the lawyers in our town, the dentist in our town, the movie theaters, the restaurants, if you go to any business in town, you usually don't just see one person working it. And the problem is real estate has been affected by this grind, this hustle, the solopreneur type mentality where we think it's cool to do everything ourselves. Sure, our profit margins are higher, my real estate coach always said, Justin, if you made $100,000 a year and you had no assistant, sure, you could probably make it a 90% profit margin. Awesome, you make $90,000. But what if you went out and made $500,000 at a 50% profit margin and paid some people to do it for you and you only made 50%? Well, you're still making 250,000 versus 90, and you're not doing any of it. So we just have to change the way we think about it instead of seeing it as an expense, but an investment into what we're doing. And while I have no knocks against U.S.-based employees, I have U.S.-based employees. Where we started was with our foreign-based VAs first, and that's where 90+% of my team is, because $7,700 a year is much more, swallowable to the palate, should I say, versus $66,000 a year. So why do solopreneurs not get assistance? It's kind of what we just talked about. It's conditioning. We've been conditioned to think that the only way to do it is US based. We've also been conditioned to think, well, Justin, if I hire a VA, I'm taking away an American job. I love America, etc. I do too. And the reality is most likely if you're thinking like that, you're not even ready to hire an in-person assistant. And so by hiring a VA, we're filling this void that we call it's called the void that doesn't exist. We're filling this void with people that probably weren't going to hire unless they were able to get this type of rate. And so we're actually inputting money into our marketplace by allowing you to create more income. Number two is old school methods, right? It's the people that don't think outsourcing works. Number three, we talked about it, the grind and hustle messaging. It's affecting your brain. You don't think it's cool to have a team. You like keeping it small and mighty, as you say, but again, it's not going to help you grow. Number four is complacent with being an average leader. We find that when we survey people, the number one reason why they don't want a VA outside of cost is they're afraid that they're not going to be able to lead somebody else with as much of a mess as they are. That's not an excuse. There's 99,000 million billion people that have led companies before that are probably more subpar than you. So we have to stop using that as an excuse of why I don't have an assistant. I hear all the time, well, Justin, I've had assistants in the past, they don't work, right? It's usually that you don't work, not the assistant doesn't work. So that kind of leads me to number five is excuses. Obviously, just real estate agents are full of excuses. I've been there, so I'm not saying anything on you because I am an agent and I was full of excuses until someone finally just told me as it was. And then, a lot of times number six is the financial thermostat is low. If you guys don't know what a financial thermostat is basically your internal belief of what you believe you deserve for income, what you deserve in wealth. And for me, for the longest time, I grew up with, before my parents got into real estate and really started to do well, an income of $50,000 to $150,000 a year. My financial thermostat of the people I was around was conditioned to think that maybe $100,000, $150,000 was a lot of money. And it was a lot of money, so don't get me wrong with that. But once I started to make $200,000, $300,000, $400,000, my financial thermostat didn't really keep up. And so I felt guilty making $500,000 a year. I then hit $1 million a year at 24, and I felt guilty about that. And so I found myself sabotaging myself, not hiring the next person because I felt guilty about making that much money. And once we kind of worked through that and we realized the more money we have, the more good we can do with it, whether it's for our family or other families, that's just changing your financial thermostat. And then the last one, which I absolutely hate, I used to say it too, I have to eat my words now, is the I do it best mentality. It is the mentality of, Justin, my clients hire me for me. I'm good at social media, I'm going to do that. I'm good at my email campaigns, I'm going to do that. And all I'm going to tell you is if you're listening to this webinar or training or whatever you want to call it right now, and that's your mentality, then just jump off because you don't understand the business practices that have been across the world. Sure, Mark Zuckerberg, when he first got started, was a great coder, but he knew that he couldn't get to where he wanted to be if he did all the coding himself. So you really have to ask yourself is where you're at, where you're comfortable, and if it is, then you're right, you don't need an assistant. I would highly recommend you don't. I think it'd be crazy if you got one, but if you're not where you want to be right now, and there's a gap between where you want to be, most likely the only difference between where you are now and that gap is just hiring help to get you there. Sure, you might have to spend 10, 20% of your profit to get there, but that's going to get you the 80% that you don't have right now, right? Usually we tell people you can't just magically go and keep doing the same things and all of a sudden get a new result. So How to hire a VA. This is what most of this call is about is, Justin, how do I hire a virtual assistant? I know there's companies out there that can do it for me. I know that you can do it yourself. Like, just give me the roadmap to how I can hire a VA. Obviously, I usually make the joke when someone says, Justin, how do I hire a VA? I just say, pray to God, right? Just go hope one shows up. But I'm just kind of joking about that. So there's 3 different ways to hire a VA. Way number 1, I have done it this way. I perfected this, and this is ultimately what led me into starting Sphere Rocket VA, is the do-it-yourself method. This is what I was taught back in my Keller Williams days. It was how to do it yourself. It was how to go to online jobs page. It was how to go to Craigslist Philippines, and you put out a job ad and you get these applications, and then you have to interview them, and you have to do this. And the benefit of this, and I'm really excited to share this with you, is the benefit is it's cheap, right? You can access Craigslist in the Philippines for free. If you find a VA willing to work for you at $4 an hour, that means all you're paying them is $4 an hour. So there's no upcharges, there's no fees, there's nothing like that. The problem is, and the downside is a lot of times when we're dealing with foreign workers for the first time, you don't know who's scamming you. You don't know if that VA is working for 17 other people. There's also something called what we call job gatherers. They're VAs with extremely great resumes, extremely great English. They go onto these sites, they gather, and they win 50, 100, 200 jobs a month. And you think that they're working with you, and they'll show up to your team meetings and do things like this, but ultimately they end up having a staff that ends up doing the work for you. And obviously it's not totally truthful, right? They're taking advantage of what you don't know. Obviously, the VAs, a lot of times, if you find a single VA, they're going to try to work for 5, 6, 7, 8 different people at the same time, which is okay in some cases. But in what most real estate agents need is someone that's dedicated to them 8 hours a day, that's looking to grow their business and not looking to just figure out how they can make as much money as possible working for different clients. So obviously, some of the cards, it's hard to screen foreign workers when you're not a foreign worker. You don't know the culture, and it's pretty hard to confirm the false from the truth. So that's way number 1. So that's way number 1. It's the cheapest, but it's also the hardest. Way number 2 is the opposite end of the spectrum. It's the fully managed services, right? These are like the MyOutDesk of the world. These are the Cyberbackers of the world. And these are great companies. There's nothing wrong with these companies. I have nothing but good things to say about these companies, but they are what we call a fully managed service. Usually they range between about $1,200 to $2,000 a month. They recruit the VAs, they do a little bit of training on the VAs, they'll even put a little bit of management on the VAs. But the thing is that's a retainer model, right? They're probably only going to pay the VA about $400 to $1,000 of the $1,200 to $2,000 that you're paying them. So for example, if you're paying a company $1,500, most likely they're only paying the VA about $640 to $750 of it. So you're paying about a 50% upcharge for really, in my opinion, some management and the one-time screening of the virtual assistant. So usually the pros of this is they're well managed. The VA is usually recruited well. The VA is under tight restrictions, right? That can be a pro and a con. Usually these companies put the VAs under really tight contracts, non-competes, like super tight, like sometimes even unethical. The companies I just named are super great though, so those are great options. MyOutDesk, Cyberbacker, they're fully managed services, right? But the problem with that is, in my opinion, is you're going to pay them a retainer fee forever. But that's also the right model for some people as well. The other one of the cons is you have less control on what you can and can't do a lot of times with the VAs, right? So sometimes you're limited by their contracts on what you can or can't do. But that goes from company to company, not to name any specifically. Obviously, the VA is theirs forever. You can never usually take the VA with you or try to work with them directly. You're also under a contract, right? And this is what I think the biggest con of having a fully managed services is. It's kind of like the old AT&T like phone contracts or T-Mobile, where you were like, man, do I want to sign another 2-year contract? Like when you have virtual assistants, if you sign up on this retainer model of them charging you $1,200 to $2,000 a month, they're usually going to make you sign a 3, 6, 9, 12-month contract. And that's okay on the first one, but once you have success and you need that second, that third, that fourth, that fifth, that 10th VA, it's really hard to swallow that you're about to sign another 12-month contract for a $1,500 a month obligation. Because when you think about assistants in most companies, you could let them go tomorrow if you needed to. But because you're using a fully managed service, the problem with it is they're mandating that you use them for a period of time. So if the market crashes and you have 20 of these, 5 of these, 3 of these, you're still on the hook for $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 a month. It's hard for you to cut costs because you're actually paying a company and not the VA. Obviously, the last con is a lot of times there's a massive upcharge put on the VA. Some companies are more gracious than others when it comes to that, but obviously that's the pros and cons of a fully managed service. So obviously, going back, way number 1 is to do it yourself, online jobs, PH, Craigslist, etc. The second end of the spectrum is a fully managed service. It's the most expensive, but it also has a lot of pros, but also has some cons to it as well. And then what we do is a mentored placement. So if you guys don't know what we do, we'll kind of go through the pros and cons here. What we do is we combine both methods and we meet them in the middle for what we feel eliminates a majority of the cons. So obviously one of the pros with a mentored placement is we're still cheap. You really end up in the long term paying your virtual assistant their exact rate. So if we find you a VA for $4 an hour, you end up paying the VA just $4 an hour. We have an entire recruitment team. Right now, my recruitment team ranges between about 15 and 20 VAs. We go through about 90,000 applications each and every month to work for SphereRocket. So obviously, when we're going through 90,000 applications and helping between 50 and 100 agents a month, obviously we have a high ratio of how many applications we're not even getting to or kicking out based on different things. We also offer continuing training and education, much like the upper tier model. With our model, because we're a mentored placement, the VA actually works for you directly. We never actually put the VA as an employee of our company. We can do that if you want us to and request it. We're obviously going to upcharge you for that. But the benefit is about 98% of our clients end up just asking for the VA to be theirs, which we can do. We have no contract, so you can keep your VA for a week, 5 months, 2 years, we don't have a contract. And the reason why that's a pro is because now you can go to 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 VAs and you don't have a problem scaling because your risk is lowered, right? We already talked about you get the VA at a rate cost. We have a replacement policy, so that's another pro. Just like the company that you'd be paying on a retainer model, they obviously have a replacement policy as well. The replacement policy on a do-it-yourself model is you have to pay the company to run ads again, you have to screen, you have to go on the interviews again. That's one of the biggest downsides of this, is if you spend 30, 60, 90 days with the wrong candidate, you just lost several $1,000s worth of time. So then kind of down into the mentored placement is, with our company, because of my real estate background, I really only hire real estate VAs. That's all I do. So those 1,000+ VAs, of the 1,000+, maybe 20 to 50 were in non-real estate fields. So we really specialize, 99% of our training down into the real estate space. Now you're like, Justin, what's the con? How do you get paid? We basically just charge a one-time placement fee. That placement fee can range based on what you need, whether it's a transaction coordinator, a cold caller, different things like that. You can obviously visit SphereRocketVA.com to learn more about that. But those are kind of the 3 main methods. So just to revisit it, you have the do-it-yourself method, Craigslist Philippines. You have the fully managed services like Cyberbacker, VirtueDesk, MyOutDesk. And then you have SphereRocket, which is what we do, which is a middle tier, which kind of combines the pros and cons of both tiers. And then with that being said, I want to answer some of your guys' questions, because hiring virtual assistants is not easy. You're hiring people from halfway across the world. You're hiring from a culture that is, it really is a third world country to a degree. So there's a lot of things that could go wrong in terms of scams and different things like that. So I just want to answer your questions about best practices of hiring VAs, anything that I can help you with. So I'm going to just kind of go through these questions real fast that some of you guys are asking. So Dimitri, and I apologize if I mispronounced your name, can you recommend some standard SOPs for agent marketing, prospecting, managing buyers and listings? Yeah, great question. So I'll kind of, if you want me guys to, let me pull open my screen real fast. Let me make sure that this shares correctly. We actually have an SOP manual, and I'm going to be honest with you, I'm not going to share the actual full manual with you because it is something that our clients pay for when they sign up for SphereRocket VA. But I'll kind of give you guys just a little bit of an overview of one of the manuals. This one's about a 250-page manual we give our employers when they get a SphereRocket VA. And just to kind of show you some of the standard SOPs we use, we obviously have like marketing SOPs, and I'm going to zoom way in so you guys can see this on the screen. But for example, just some standard ones, it kind of depends on what you're needing, is marketing like Facebook page posting business, Facebook page posting on your personal, cleaning up your Facebook friends list, creation of Canva accounts, client VIP management groups, managing a YouTube, Instagram, StreamYard, podcast management, doing 36 touch plans, monthly email marketing. And so you guys can kind of see here on the screen, and you guys can feel free to pause and take a look at this. We obviously have like an entire lead gen section, Craigslist posting, Facebook paid ads, Facebook free ads. And so, yes, there is a million different standard practices. Just as a reminder, if you comment the word task, we will make sure to get you guys a copy of the top 50 tasks or SOPs that we use. And that guide actually gives you the SOPs. So make sure to check that out as well. If you comment the word task, we'll make sure to get that to you. And I think that would answer your question there about the top SOPs that we're currently using in our business. Obviously, if you need more, we have the option to provide you more. So love that question. Let's see, what other questions do we have? Lisa says, what about privacy of information to deal with people and where they live? So Lisa, this is something that I'm going to be pretty blunt about, and I don't want, it's not directed at you, but it's directed more at the marketplace and just the world we live in today. Is there's really nothing private about anything anymore. Right now, when we talk about a real estate transaction and we look at what's private, there's really only a few private pieces. And the private pieces are sometimes the terms of the contract, and the private pieces are sometimes, or not sometimes in this case, it's obviously wiring instructions can be private, bank account information can be private, and social security numbers can be private. Really, outside of that, nothing is private. If I wanted to right now, if I opened up my screen, Lisa, and I looked up your address and I looked up what counties you serve, in just a minute, I could figure out, Lisa, where you live. And if you don't, so none of that information is really, but with that being said, we brought up a good point about how to use Hubstaff to monitor them, things like that. Our team all has monitoring software put on our virtual assistants to obviously monitor to keep the security risk down. And then, of course, Lisa, when it comes to privacy information, we teach you, at least from our side of things, and I would teach this to anybody, is there's obviously some things we let our VAs touch and there's some things we don't let our VAs touch, right? So we obviously, when we look at what a VA can do for us, they can still do 99% of the job that they need to do, whether it's social media, transaction work, admin work, without knowing someone's social security number, right? They can do almost all tasks without knowing that. Sure, maybe they can't order like a title payoff, or maybe there's some of those few tasks, 1, 2, 3 tasks a transaction that they just can't do, and maybe an in-person person could do. But even then, like even your in-person person, this is what I challenge people with, is even if you hired a US-based person, you still have all these same risks. You have privacy risk, you have things like that. Obviously, with Sphere Rocket becoming a Filipino corporation, we have the ability to make these people VAs. We can put them under employment contracts. So there's a lot of different options, just depending on what level of security you need. So absolutely. Love that question. So Britt, Patrick, a few other people, Lisa had asked about the task. So we'll definitely make sure to get you guys a copy of that today. With that being said, I kind of wanted just to walk you guys through the VA recruitment process. So if you guys tried to duplicate it yourself, you're more than happy to, but I'm going to walk you guys through what we do for our clients at Sphere Rocket when it comes to this. So number one is when someone comes to us and they tell us what we need, we're going to help them build the job profile. We're going to build all the recruitment ads. We're going to spend our money to go out there and launch the ads, which is obviously what leads us to get about 3,000 applications per day, or about $90,000 per month. Our team of 15 to 20 different recruiters on level 1, 2, 3, we're going to screen them. So we usually screen about the top 1% through round 1. So if we're talking 1% of 90,000, we're going to talk about 900 interviews go through round 1 of us each and every month. Then we're going to screen the next top 1%, which is usually about 90. Usually we're working with about 50 agents a month. And so we'll usually do even another top 1% to 10%, where we're then bringing out the top candidates for our clients. So we found that obviously the more applications you can get, the more you have to choose from, right? It's kind of like looking at like the NFL, college football, different things like that. Why are NFL players so good? Because there's so much football being played around the United States. There's so much football players, colleges, that they can pick the best of the best, right? If we were trying to pick cricket players here in the US, we might not have the best cricket team because we don't have a lot of options to choose from. So the same thing goes when recruiting VAs. The more options you have, the more resumes you have, obviously the better success you're going to have. And so that kind of is a big piece of your thing. Obviously, final interviews. A lot of companies, they skip the technology screening piece. So, and this is what a lot of people fail at when they do their own VA placement, is they're not checking things like VA's computer software. They're not checking VA's internet speed. They're not checking where the VA lives for weather compliance. They're not looking at what is the VA's ability to analyze English. What is their, all these different processes. So that's another piece of what we do during the recruitment process. DISC profiles, personality assessments, income, financial thermostat understanding, different things like that. Obviously, once we find the right candidate, we're going to take that VA through finalized training. So obviously, if you do your own VA, I hope you have some finalized training ready to go. I hope you got all the real estate training, all the SOPs ready to go. If you don't, that's obviously why 99% of our consumers hire Sphere Rocket, is we've already done that. We have the 250 page manual that you can literally just give your VA, tell them what section you want them to do. And the next thing you know, you have a great looking Instagram, great looking Facebook, your admin tasks are being handled, your calendar's being handled, you got intro letters going out, you got email marketing going out. And so obviously that's one of the big things we recommend, is just kind of being the process that you follow when it comes to recruitment of virtual assistants. So if I had one key to give you guys, if you do decide to do VA recruitment yourself, and you're like, Justin, why in the hell are you telling us to go do this ourselves when you own a company that does it for us? I'm not telling you to go do it yourself. I'm just saying it's an option. I'd be lying to you if I said it wasn't possible to do it yourself. I'm just trying to show you the pros and cons to both methods. And so if you guys go out there, you do it yourself, obviously, if you can get 90,000 applications, you're going to be really well set. But we usually find that most people come to us after trying it themselves and go, Justin, I only got 10 applications, or I only got 30. And of the 30, half didn't respond, half want to work multiple jobs, half couldn't even speak English the way I need them to. And so obviously I find that the key to VA recruitment is just being able to generate as many applications as possible. And if you guys don't believe me that we actually generate 90,000 applications, because I know there's other big VA companies that accuse us of falsifying our application numbers, we're more than happy to screen share and show you guys the daily applications we got coming in, because it's absolutely crazy what we got going on there. So I just want to share with you guys a few of our customers and kind of what they're using VAs for, so you guys can kind of know what VAs can put their hands into. We have Andrew Franklin out of the Houston, Texas market. He sells about 1,800 homes a year with his team. He owns a real estate team. He owns a title company. He owns a recruitment company of real estate agents. He even does some private money lending. He uses his virtual assistants for literally everything. They use him for some graphic design. And here's the thing about Andrew. Andrew's got a rock star staff of admin teams that he pays many times into the six figures for, and yet he still uses virtual assistants to maintain profitability. So Andrew's one of those examples of has an existing team, has existing admin, and is using VAs to help his existing admin so that they don't go crazy and lose their mind with too much work. Another example is Rebecca Mendoza. She is a single agent. She's growing a team. She was an agent that didn't want to get back and have a team of 100 people, but still wanted to have someone. So we found her what we call a C-level VA, which is basically the VA runs her entire life. And the VA for her, which is why I wanted to share this, even crossed over into other businesses. Her VA also helps her husband, who runs a photography business. And one of the pros of what we do at Sphere Rocket is since we gave the virtual assistant to Rebecca, she got to choose what the VA did. She could let the VA work for another company. And so obviously her and her husband were able to benefit from co-using a VA together in that sense and not being limited by the contracts we did. Bo is a great example of someone that's scaling with many of our VAs. If you don't know who Bo is, I recommend you guys look him up on YouTube, look him up on Facebook, add him as a friend. Bo's a great example of someone that's done VA recruitment himself. He used to have VAs, he's used the fully managed services, and yet we've helped Bo go to, I don't even know, 5, 6, 7 virtual assistants in the last 6 to 8 months, because he understands that all he has to do is let us recruit them, put the right person in the right seat, and then from there he can scale without, you know, being scared of contracts, etc. Because if the market crashed next month or he wanted to get out of real estate, he could let all of his VAs go. He has no overhead worry, anything like that. So I recommend, if you guys want to look up any of these people, look at some of their profiles, maybe learn a little bit more about what they're doing with virtual assistants. Obviously, this webinar will be recorded, but just wanted to pass that on to you guys. Another person that I think that you guys should all know, if you don't know her within my world, is Shireen Mendoza. Shireen is our VA Spotlight of the Week. We do one of these on every training. Shireen is our on-site CEO of Sphere Rocket. She is based in the Philippines, and Shireen runs Sphere Rocket's entire recruitment process. And so if you ever have questions for Shireen about best practices of managing virtual assistants, etc., Shireen is the absolute rock star. So with that being said, I appreciate you guys joining on today. I hope you guys got some nuggets. My biggest nugget for you is when it comes to recruiting a VA, the amount of applications that you get 100% will make all of the difference in the world. The ability for you to go through round 1, 2, 3. And if there's anything I could ever tell you guys about why people don't hire VAs, it's about getting the conditioning right. If you look at anybody above you, for the most part, that is doing something that you want to do, one of the key things that I guarantee 99.9% of the time they are doing that you're not doing is you just don't have the amount of people they do. You don't have the talent that they have, and that can be easily fixed, easily fixed for almost no cost. So with that being said, if you guys ever have questions about what we do at Sphere Rocket, the whole purpose of these is to obviously give you value, be able to help you guys advance your business. Yet I'd be crazy not to obviously share. If you guys ever need our help, just go to sphererocketva.com. You can sign up with a consultation with us. We don't sales pitch anything. We basically just go, do you need a VA? How can we help you? Let's see if it's right. If it's not, then obviously we're going to give you a recommendation on where we think you should go, whether it's hiring an in-person admin or just not even hiring at all. And don't forget to obviously use the coupon code Facebook group as well. So with that being said, if you guys commented task, make sure you guys talk to William and Gabe. They will shoot you guys a message and get you guys off and rolling. With that being said, I'm going to stick around for another 30 to 45 seconds just to see if anybody has any questions at all for me, and I will answer them for you. So feel free to knock any questions at me that you guys want. It can be about anything. I'm going to give you guys just a second to see if anybody's got any last minute questions for me while you have me live. All right, guys. Well, no one had. Oh, yeah. Justin, great question. Justin just asked, is it possible to hire a C-level to coordinate SOPs? Absolutely, Justin. Obviously, you're going through that process right now with us. That's all we hire out is that type of level type VAs. Obviously, once you get into the trainings, what you're going to find is all you got to do is sort them in the right direction. Obviously, if there's not an SOP that's already there, obviously the right VA can go out there. Number one, they can create that VA from there. They can create that SOP from scratch for you. Way number two is obviously they can request Sphere Rocket to make that SOP for them, which we have in our unlimited training request policy manual. Or number three, obviously they can go to the other 1,000+ VAs that are in the real estate space, because there's usually about a 90+% chance whatever SOP you need or haven't created yet and don't want to create, someone else has already created. So all you have to do is reach out to them, and your VA can go talk to their VA and take care of it. So it's absolutely possible to hire the right VA to do that. We try to make it foolproof to where it's almost impossible to not have that. So great question. I just want to make sure I got everybody's questions answered here. But it looks like we are wrapped up here, guys. We do these every single week. Obviously, would love for you guys to be a part of our Sphere Rocket VA family. We have over 800 plus people in the last 12 months that have hired us to find them virtual assistants. So no matter where you guys are in your process, let us know. I love it. I got another question. Usually I don't usually someone asks, great, at what hourly rate would you suggest? Obviously, guys, it's just like the United States. You know, if you hire somebody at $2.50 an hour as a virtual assistant, their talent's usually equivalent to about $30,000 to $40,000 a year in the United States. Not saying that that income has a lower talent. You just sometimes might not have as many predetermined skills in terms of if you hire someone at $30,000 in the US, you're going to find great talent possibly, but you're not going to go find someone that has 5 years of experience in real estate, right? If you go hire someone at 60, 70, 80,000 a year in the United States, you're paying them that amount of money. They might have the same work ethic, they might have the same skills as the other person, but maybe they have more niche specific experience. So the only reason I say that is $2.50 an hour is kind of the equivalent to $25,000 to $35,000 a year salary in the US, and what you can expect. $4 an hour is where we start to get into that 50, 60, 70 range, which is why a lot of our VAs average about $4 an hour when it comes to our placements. And then obviously, you know, if you start to pay 5, 6, 7, 8, you know, obviously we start having expectations that the VAs have been several years within at least that industry, or as a virtual assistant working for a company doing the SOPs, you know, whether it's social media, admin tasks, schedule management, you know, team coordination, things like that at a little bit deeper level. So that's usually why we say between 3 to 6 an hour. Just kind of depends on what you're looking for, but $4 an hour is what people end up averaging with us. So awesome, guys. Well, it looks like we're at a wrap here. I appreciate you guys joining in live. So we had over 100 people across our different platforms join in today. Appreciate you guys. As always, if you ever need us for anything at all, just go to sphererocketva.com and we're more than happy to help you.